Have you ever wondered how to increase memory power by yoga? Well, I've gotten a lot of questions about that since I mentioned my own yogic practices, so I thought I'd go through it. If you're ready, this is Anthony Metivier from magneticmemorymethod.com. Hit that thumbs up, get subscribed to this channel if you aren't already, and let's get started with this video because really the way to get started increasing your memory power with yoga is to actually define what memory power means for you. I'm actually using that term because so many people ask me, well, how do I increase my memory power? And I have to ask, what is memory power? And the reason why this is so important is because if you don't have a definition, how can you really work on it and how can yoga help? So basically, one of the first sort of things you can do is make contact with the meaning of the terms that you're using and then write it out in your memory journal. If you don't keep a memory journal, please do get started. There are many, many benefits, one of which is simply spending a bit of time focusing on your life, on yourself, on your desires, on your goals for your memory, and list the benefits and the outcomes that you want. This might not seem directly like yoga, but I think if you know the fullest definitions of yoga, you know what I mean. Now, the second thing, of course, is to pick an actual form of yoga in the more traditional understanding of that word. And so, I do a lot of vinyasa yoga and posture flow. I learned the basic things that have helped me the most from a book called Happiness Beyond Thought by Gary Weber. I hope you check it out. I'll link to some of his YouTube videos below and to his blog and to his book so you can check it out. And in Happiness Beyond Thought, there's some really, really powerful suggestions on what to do with this that really do directly help your memory. Basically, what you can do when you're in these movements is rehearse your memory palaces and your magnetic imagery while moving. And this can take a little bit of practice. And, sometimes you actually want to do these movements while practicing no thoughts at all, or maybe you want to do a little bit of self inquiry, which is also taught in Happiness Beyond Thought to sort of diminish the ego, diminish the chatter mind, and so forth. But, you don't always have to. You can also direct your mind at specific outcomes. And so I like to do these movements and actually rehearse like Chinese that I'm learning by tapping into memory palaces. It's really powerful. And you can use memory palaces to actually help memorize the movements and positions themselves. Now, I'm not going to get into how all of that works. I'd really prefer if you take my free course and understand what a memory palace is before we get into the nuts and bolts and the pyrotechnics of actually visualizing characters in your mind in memory palaces and mapping them onto memory palaces in different ways and the whole concepts of bridging figures and so forth. So start with the free memory improvement course and we'll move from there. But generally, just understand that you can use memory palaces to help you memorize movements and positions. It's really powerful. And then, of course, you can do the movements and positions in your mind while you're doing them with your body. And that helps you with all kinds of things in terms of executing the actual moves and flow and reducing mental chatter by using, directing, focusing thought. The next thing that I'll talk about is karma yoga, which is a really powerful practice. It's not talked about that much, but it's a super powerful form of yoga and it helps your memory in some really concrete ways. So, what is it? Well, it's doing good things without expectation, right? That's what karma yoga is, helping others with no expectation of return. I heard it once and I never forgot it that expectation is the quickest path to suffering. Right? So if you could just remove expectation of the outcome from your life and just help others and not worry about what's going to come back to you, that's karma yoga, or at least that's a way of thinking about it. It's part of it. And that in and of itself will create good memories. It actually does more than create good memories. It actually grinds up and spits out bad memories. And, that's maybe a bit theoretical, but I've always found that to be true for myself. So if you do karma yoga, then I think you'll find it's quite the same. It's not just creating good memories, but it's cleaning out the old bad ones. And, doing good things without expectation not only crumbles the bad memories, but it crumbles their hold. It actually releases you from the hold of bad memories so that when they do come, you're able to recognize them for what they are, push them away, label them, and dust returns to dust. So I think it's not just about cleaning them up, but it's actually reducing the impact of the hold of bad memories. Because I'm not sure we can ever really get entirely rid of bad memories. But what we can do is transform the way that they touch us when they do arise. And so that actually it just becomes a very light touch or even a negligible touch, or maybe touch isn't the right word at all. It's just like, there's that monkey brain again with some bad memories. So it's about getting rid of that touch altogether. The next thing that I would talk about is Bhakti Yoga, which is it's a big topic, so I'll just touch on it briefly. But it's sort of having a devotional figure in mind or a sense of worship and so forth. And I'm not really all into that kind of stuff, but at the same time, I hold memory as a kind of ideal, and I think of the memory palace as just this wonderful ideal. Not to worship it or venerate it or anything like that, but we do need frames of reference to think about. And if you look at all the traditions of philosophy and psychology and so forth, this and religion, there's always this sort of way of being symbolic to something bigger than yourself. So there are rituals and things where you can venerate and worship and so forth, something that's bigger than yourself. And memory is bigger than ourselves. Memory is actually something that probably doesn't even exist entirely in our own brains, but rather in communication with other people. So maybe I venerate memory a little bit, but also specifically the memory palace. And I think about the great memory masters, and just pay them their due, so to speak, in our mind by symbolically holding them and giving them thanks and gratitude for what they did in order to help preserve this tradition over time. Another way that you can think about this Bhakti Yoga concept is you can revisit memory palaces that you've created that are related to your parents and recall positive memories that increase your devotion to memory practice itself, but also to your parents. It's one thing that we've lost so much in our world is just being grateful for our parents. I mean, our parents, they just live out their lives and they put us in the world, and maybe some bad things happened here and there. That would be normal. But most of us, we just have a really great experience, and we don't do enough to venerate our own parents. And so, from the memory perspective, one of the ways that you can do that is use the homes that you grew up in and actually revisit not only the homes for memory palace purposes, but revisit it for good memories. Think about the good times. I think about watching the Hulk and Knight Rider with my parents, and Christmas, and going out early in the morning to start the car and just warm it up in the cold Canadian winters and so forth, and the really the hell that they went through to provide for us, yes, my brother and I. Like, it's just, I don't know if this is exactly what's meant by Bhakti Yoga, but it comes to mind as a way that you could use that principle of veneration to get more from your practice at a spiritual level, so to speak, and connect it to memory practice. So give that a try. I don't think enough of us do that. And it just would relate to crumbling bad memories, because even if you had some bad times with your parents, you could actually forgive them throughout this process and perhaps free up some parts of your mind for better things. Now, speaking of freeing up parts of your mind, you can also memorize chants as a way of doing that. And one in particular, I'm not entirely sure it would count as a chant, but I really enjoy doing it, and that's called Kirtan Kriya. I'm going to link below to Gary Weber's great video on that, so you can check it out, and I think you should learn it from him. But essentially, one of the things that it does is it polishes the mind, and you just touch your fingers in a particular way and say Sata Nama, and you don't have to say those words. There's no particular meaning to them, even though, as he points out, some people have done all they can to give it meaning, but it's really irrelevant. You could say 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter. I don't think 1, 2, 3, 4 is nearly as pretty as Satanama. In any case, give that a try, and I think you'll find that it really clears up a lot of chatter from the brain. And you can also use words in a foreign language that you memorized and use this touch to help locate them a little bit more. So give that a try as well. I think you'll find it quite useful. Then there's Jnana Yoga, which is maybe a little bit hard to explain. It's something you want to get into, and maybe I don't even fully understand it as well. But as far as I understand it, is self-inquiry, which I sort of mentioned before. And why this helps with memory and is kind of paradoxical and odd for me. But basically, as you practice and self inquire about yourself, and you study self inquiry as a practice, you're going to be practicing memory in some really interesting ways. And the most interesting of all is that you'll be remembering to self inquire, right? So let's say you're doing a particular yoga move and you're doing a typical sort of self inquiry practice, like to whom is this happening, or where is my breath going, or where does my breath come from? Well, in order to actually do that. You have to remember to do it, right? So anytime that you take some sort of self-inquiry practice on, then you are practicing your memory by default because you need to remember to actually practice self-inquiry. And likewise, you would say that you need to remember to do yoga in the first place, and you need to remember to do all the forms of yoga that you do that with, So how are you going to remember to do all that stuff? Well, one of the things you can do is learn to use a memory palace to remember to-do lists, and then you could put these different kinds of yoga that we've talked about today and devote a little bit of time in a particular order. I think of that as like magnetic habit chaining, and when you put those habits together, then you put them in a memory palace in a particular order, and maybe that order is actually triggered by how you walk through your own home, then you'll be much more likely to remember to do it. So if you're interested in learning how to make a memory palace so that you can do something like that, let me give you an unfair advantage, and that is in the form of a free course and memory improvement kit that I've created that gives you a kit with some PDFs that show you exactly how to make a well-formed memory palace that will help you do this kind of thing. And it gives you some videos, and that's at magneticmemorymethod.com/YT. These videos are going to walk you through implementing what's in the worksheets and take it to the next level as well by showing you how to create imagery in your mind that will help you create a tool base for memorizing things that you want to do and memorizing movements in yoga and chants if you want to memorize chants and so on. So without delay, go and get this course because it's really, really powerful, and it's going to help you implement all of these ideas because you'll remember to do them. And I just want to rehearse that point one more time. Just by remembering to self-inquire in and of itself, you'll be practicing your memory as you improve your yogic practice. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it for you. Please get this course at magneticmemorymethod.com/YT. Hit that like button to let me know that you enjoyed this training. And until we have a chance to speak again, get subscribed to this channel so that we can. And I really look forward to the next time. Until then, this is Anthony Metivier from magneticmemorymethod.com. Keep yourself magnetic.